Today we are starting with a new 4-part series entitled The Everlasting Gospel. Today we are going to look at what is the everlasting gospel. If you work for a company, I'm sure that you know your responsibility and mission at that company. If you're a salesperson for a cell phone company, then it will be your mission and your goal to sell cell phones to potential customers. I believe it is the mission of Christians to live the gospel message and also to share the gospel message with other people. This can clearly be seen in the book of Mark. In Mark chapter 1, verse 14 and 15, the Bible tells us how Jesus was preaching the everlasting gospel. And in verse 15 it tells us that he asked people to repent and to believe the gospel. When we believe the gospel, we will accept it into our lives and we will live it. And when we live the gospel, we will have a desire in our hearts to share it with other people. That's why in Mark chapter 16, in the last chapter of this very same gospel, in verse 15, Jesus tells his disciples to go into all the world and to preach the gospel. So the mission of a Christian is to live the gospel and to preach the gospel, to share it with other people. Not to force other people to accept it, but to give other people an opportunity to decide whether they want to accept or reject the everlasting gospel. Paul also recognizes this fact in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 17, where he makes it clear that Christ did not call him to baptize, but rather to preach the gospel. Christ did not call us to convert people, but Christ is asking us to share the gospel message with people so that they can be convicted and then they can make a decision for or against the gospel message. In Matthew chapter 24 verse 14, Jesus made it clear that this gospel message of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a witness, and then the end shall come. Jesus has made it clear that he will return when everyone in the world has had an opportunity to either accept or reject the gospel message. But how can I live the gospel message if I don't even know what the gospel message is? How can I share the gospel message with others if I don't even know what the gospel message is all about? The word gospel simply means good news. And so we want to find out what is this good news. Because in the world today, there's so many different definitions of what the gospel actually is and what the good news is. In Galatians chapter 1 verse 9, Paul actually warns against many different gospels. And he says that there's only one true gospel, and anyone who preaches another gospel should be accursed. There's only one place in the Bible where it tells us clearly what the gospel message actually is. In Revelation chapter 14 verse 6, the Bible tells about an angel that flies in the midst of heaven with an everlasting gospel to preach unto all nations, kindred, tongues, and people. This is exactly what Jesus was talking about in Matthew chapter 24 verse 14, a message that needs to go to the whole world and then the end will come. Because in Revelation chapter 14 in verse 6 it introduces this gospel message. Then from verse 7 to 12 it explains to us what this gospel message is. And then from verse 13 to 20 it tells us what the result will be of preaching this everlasting gospel. From verse 13 to 20 it tells us about the white cloud and the Son of Man having a golden crown on his head. This is describing the second coming of Jesus. The three angels' messages of Revelation 14 is the everlasting gospel. It is the exact same thing. So are you interested in learning more about this message that needs to go to the whole world, and then Jesus will return, and then the end will come? Please remember to subscribe to this channel if you've not done so already, and share these videos with others so that they can also get an opportunity to listen to these lessons. In our next lesson, we are going to look at the message of the first angel. In our third lesson, we will look at the message of the second angel. And then in our fourth and final lesson in this series, we will look at the message of the third angel. Join me on this journey as we study about the everlasting gospel.